Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, powered by the JDog Foundation. Our podcast gives veterans, mil spouses, active duty members, military family members, and patriotic military supporters a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has helped them in their journey in their military life, business, or career. Today, I am so excited to have with me Ryan Bauman, who served as a field artillery officer in the United States Marine Corps and embarked on a 20-year career that would take him around the world, including 5 deployments to the Middle East and several other spots around the globe. Upon retiring from the Marine Corps, Ryan entered the higher education industry, joining the Commandant's Department at the Citadel, and also served for almost 3 years as a strategic partnerships manager for Western Governors University. In 2023, Ryan joined forces with Dr. Ken Hartman as the first director of community engagement for Our Community Salutes USA. Ryan also volunteers in a variety of other capacities, including board member at large for the First Coast Honor Flight Jacksonville, Florida hub, and recently as vice president of the board of directors for the Florida Advisory Council on Military Education. He has earned master's degrees from both Webster University and Western Governors University. While in service in the Marine Corps, he completed multiple professional military programs from institutions in the Marine Corps University, as well as being awarded various personal, unit, and campaign awards for combat and meritorious service. Hello, Ryan. What an incredible bio. And thank you for joining me today. And thank you so much for your 20 years of service to our country, sir.
Hi, Tracy. It's great to be with you, and I really appreciate the invitation to be here this morning.
Yeah, I'm excited to get involved in our discussion. And so we have a lot to talk about OCS. But I would love to know what inspired you to join the Marine Corps.
That's always been a great question. I just remember being in high school, and I don't really know that there was the sort of eminent light bulb that went off, other than the Marines that I knew of, at that time were just hard charging guys and big tough dudes, and I looked at them and said, wow, I want to be like that. And so I embarked on this fact finding mission, and I actually went to my local recruiter first, and lo and behold, and I know it's kind of an unheard of thing. He kind of pointed me to the Naval ROTC program, and so I said, well, what better way to get the best of both worlds there, get a college education, while being on a scholarship, and then join the Marine Corps afterwards as an officer and be able to lead people, and so it was just a very roundabout way to get there, but it was the way that I discovered it.
Yeah, it worked, obviously. That's great. So I know there's a lot of moments, in your service. Is there a particular moment that stood out as very impactful in a positive way for you?
So a lot of them. Oh man, and I guess to try to hone one. I mean, there's been a ton of leaders, that have taught me things, and I always say I try to grab on to the goods and the bads from everybody you work for, and so I've tried to really take that to heart, and take the positives from everybody that I've come in contact with. But if I had to put my finger on, perhaps
Hmm.
one particular thing, it was the almost year that I spent with the Iraqi Army on the military transition team back in the oh
Oh,
07
wow.
or oh 07 oh 08 time frame. Being in a small team environment, the closest thing to it, we weren't special forces guys, we weren't operators, but it was a small team, environment, and there was a lot of similarities when it came to the things that we had to be able to do. We had to be self-sufficient. As we're about 10 to 12 people, on each of those teams. I know they varied, depending on where you were, but I had the
Sure.
opportunity to be on a couple of different teams, and we went all around Iraq. We went through many provinces. I came in contact with so many different people, and really we were able to just live and breathe and embrace the culture. We had our folks that we advised, that we worked alongside, but in many cases the guys that I worked with, the Iraqis, were very good at what they did, and so that it was not easy per se, but maybe a little bit less challenging than those that actually had to start from scratch. But I think
Right.
just the cultural immersion in an environment like that, there's nothing like it, and I have a great appreciation and understanding, for why Americans, want to go do that in other countries around the, many countries around the world. It really is. It's an experience like none other.
Sure. Wow, that's amazing. So, post service, you went into the education sector. Working at the Citadel, what was that like?
Oh, it was awesome. It was such a blessing in the transition space where I was at, in my career and in my life, at that time. I was one of those that just didn't necessarily do the transition, the right way, if there is a right way. I started
I don't
late.
think there is a right way.
No,
I don't know
I
that there is.
agree. There's a formula, to it, but yeah, there's not an answer, that comes out, and again, no, the joke is nobody's standing there at your retirement, at your EAS, at whenever that day comes with your next set of orders, into your
Sure.
post military life, and so just spending. I spent the last 6 months, um, again, too late in the grand scheme of things. But that was, I spent that time just reflecting, networking, trying to figure out what the heck it was that I wanted to do, and I had no clue, really. But I stumbled upon, this posting, and I luckily I had my LinkedIn set up. I think the way that you needed to with keywords, and I'm reading this thing, and,
Sure.
and it's from the Citadel, and I said, you know what, that's it, that's the thing. And I really felt like when something jumps out, off the page at you like that, that's your calling. So
Mm.
it was a great thing. It was a teacher advisor and coach is what TAC is the acronym for it. It was part of the leadership development program, but I was involved with a company of cadets, freshmen through senior, as their day-to-day sort of military advisor, if you will, to kind of help guide them through the hierarchy and the structure of the school. Which is
Oh,
very
wow.
unique of itself, being a military school. I only did it for a year because I moved to Florida, during COVID. So I was there that
Right.
year when COVID happened. It was an amazing experience. I love the kids there. They were just awesome. I had no affiliation to the school. I don't know to this day, why they chose me. But it was certainly a great experience for me. I just enjoyed talking to the students, and I got to have
Right.
one-on-one counseling sessions with them. And I would recommend that to anybody. It was an amazing experience. It was great in the transition role, space that I was in. Being
Right.
that first out, I got to wear a uniform to I say got, being still remaining in uniform was part of the role, even though I was retired, and I couldn't wear it
Right.
anywhere else. So they had to get special permission, for all the folks that are in those roles. unless there's reservists that are part of that as well. So they're obviously okay. But yeah, we retirees, to be able to stay in uniform, you retain your rank, so you're not you don't really have to make the jump,
Right.
into the
Right into the
civilian.
civilian world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was kind of a nice sort of low key jump, if you will, and I really appreciated that. And I even when I was going through it, I was like, wow, this was really a good call
Sure.
to down here and do it. And again, it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. That kind, I feel like that kind of set you up to what you're doing now with our community salutes. So I would love to hear about that journey. How did Dr. Hartman, how did he grab you?
So in order to get to that, I have to talk about my Western Governors University experience, and so moved to Florida.
Hmm.
Again, stupidly, people always say don't move without a job. Well, I finished up my contract at the Citadel and just made the decision. The Bauman family was going to move, and we wanted to be in Florida, which was where we wanted to end up anyhow. And
Right.
so we just we did it like it was in the middle of the night, not really, but that was how quickly. I mean, that was how quickly the decision was made. It was like a couple of weeks, and we were gone. We had ended a lease up there in South Carolina. My contract was complete. Kids were out of school. It was just like perfect timing. Came to Florida. Didn't come here with a job already, so again, I started all over again, with that whole thing, and spent literally months. There were several months, and so I went and I got like a side gig as a security guard here for CSX and Boeing, while I was looking, but again, stumbled upon this job posting for Western Governors University. Never heard of it. But again, the thing jumped off the page at me, and I went, "Wow, that's it. That's a thing." And it was literally just doing outreach on behalf of the military community and spreading the value of education. And I went, "Wow,
Wow.
that I can do that. That's awesome." And so I had a territory. I did that for a number of years, but in the process of the development side of things and just networking, I came in contact with this organization called Our Community Salutes USA. And lo and behold, they do ceremonies for military enlistees, high school seniors going into the military. And they're looking for vendors. They want companies and universities and all that to come be exhibitors at these ceremonies. And I looked around at where they were, and oh wow, they've got one in Orlando, they've got one in Charleston. They're in my neck of the woods, and so Dr. Hartman and I had a conversation about how I could come out and be an exhibit, just simply be a vendor, and get the school behind what he was doing, with regard to supporting this population. And it was
Right.
naturally a win-win, because yeah, you get to talk about education to all these kids. And so we had a relationship for a couple of years in there. I helped connect him to some new locations, um, as well. That may or may not have worked out. I don't necessarily know. I'm sure he would probably laugh at that too. But just in the process of all of that, we grew a very good relationship together. I talked with him, every couple of months, and certainly saw him at the ceremonies. And I just reached out to him one day. I was kind of not that I get the 3-year itch, like orders are coming up or something, but I
Right.
just started putting feelers out, and saying, hey, I'm thinking about starting to put the feelers out there. What are your thoughts on, you know of anybody that might be looking for at the time I was doing development, and he said, wait, I'm looking for an engagement director, and so we so that sounds
Okay.
interesting. Tell me more, and just again through like that's how you're supposed to do it. That's how you network, right?
Right.
And you come up with great solutions. And so literally we had a couple of conversations, an interview process, if you will, and within a couple of months, he had hired me and brought me on board. And again, I loved what I was doing. So this isn't that much different,
Right.
than what I was doing. This is just, I mean, this is straight nonprofit world and just very, very tough. When it comes to nonprofit, the university was a nonprofit school as well, but
Sure.
much bigger. When it boils down to it, but yeah, just again, networking really paid off, and just maintaining relationships.
Right.
That was literally how I came to be in my current role.
So what do you actually do in your current role as in director of engagement?
Yeah, so it really is. It's just as it sounds. It's community engagement. So it's linking up with all of the various recruiters, that come to our ceremonies. And I would say that the biggest part of our business, is the ceremonies. And so
Right.
the only way that we get, as you know, and the only way we get the invitations out to the attendees, to the high school seniors, to their parents, their family members, their guardians that are going to come, is through the recruiting commands. We don't go to school districts. We don't go to individual high schools and do all that because we would never know who they were. The recruiters would know that. And so probably the biggest and most challenging part of the job is, in fact, maintain those relationships with those recruiters. And that is really where the engagement aspect comes in. And so, from the commanding generals and admirals, all the flag officers that are in charge of those various group commands across, all the services, on down to the individual substation, if you will, which I know is a Marine Corps term. I don't know all of the other terms, for individual offices, but getting it into the hands of each one of those folks. And last fall, I had to create this massive spreadsheet with like 1,000 points of contact, because
Wow.
I was literally the first. Ken never had somebody that was dedicated to this role. He was doing this, by
Right.
himself for all those years, and so just creating, the tools and the resources, with all the different points of contact, and that's just the recruiters. Now we got to look at, the businesses and the local sponsors and the volunteers and all of and just all the venue planning and all of those things that go in, to making the ceremony. And then we did it in 16 locations this year,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
that I was part of, let alone
Hmm.
the other 30, that we did. And so we have help. We have a lot of volunteer help across the country, to put these things in place, but they're not everywhere. We don't have them everywhere. And so
Sure.
part of my role is to help grow that,
Right.
and the community leaders that we have in the 30 other locations that are running their local ceremonies. It's making sure that they've got the resources. A lot of them have been doing
Right.
this longer than I have, so they know, kind of what they need, so they can tell us. And
Right.
but
Sure.
again, just making sure that we've got those relationships out there. We're resourcing them properly. We're giving them the coins and the books that we pass out at all of our ceremonies, making sure they've got
Right.
enough of that. Help, not that I help them with their website, um, but just making sure that, they don't need anything.
Right.
We've got other folks that are doing the technical stuff and all of that, but a lot of it is just continuous communication. And again, probably the biggest thing that I do is communicate,
Right.
in engagement
Yeah.
role.
And
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
we had had the honor of attending one of those ceremonies. And that's where we met you as Ken's guest. And it was, I got to tell you, it was just amazing um, to just see all those senior boys and girls, or young people, I should say, you know, taking the oath and pledging to serve our country. It was just, it was very amazing, very inspiring. And Jerry and I were so happy that we were able to be there and to witness all that. It was just amazing.
That was awesome to sit with you. I really enjoyed that. Enjoyed the conversation. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is. It's touching. It's moving, and it never
Yeah.
gets old. It's funny because Ken will literally come up to me after every single one of those and say that very phrase. It never. He goes, Ryan, it never gets old, and it
Yeah.
really doesn't. And it doesn't
Right.
matter, that many of them may look the same,
Right.
too. But you've got different kids coming in there every year. We got different speakers, and it doesn't. You see the faces, the moms and the dads and family members, and even the veterans and elected officials, and just everybody who's there, just walks away. I think inspired, and I can't tell you the number of comments that we've gotten.
Sure.
Just thank you for doing this, and like, hey, it's not that this is Ken did this, like this is Saint
Yeah.
Ryan, but
Right.
it's a pleasure to be a part of this.
Hello,
Yeah.
viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to jdog.com and check out our two veteran focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran owned with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast.
So, Ryan, I have to ask you, I would love to know what your tactical treasure is.
I put a lot of thought in this, Tracy. It,
Oh,
it,
no.
it was well,
Oh.
and no, but I say when, but I was like the answer was very obvious to me all along. And in fact, if I can, I would like to share two, because one of them is a quote. I think you had mentioned quotes are okay.
Sure.
I do have an
Yeah.
object, but I want to share a quote because it's something that has been with me for 20 plus years, and the story may behind where we were, may the details may be a little bit fuzzy, but as I remember it, we my unit, I was in an artillery battalion, and we deployed to Kuwait in 2003, early 2003, before we crossed the border. Obviously went into Iraq. General Mattis was the uh, commanding general of the First Marine Division, at the time, and so he was our fearless leader. Awesome man. Loved being a lieutenant, at the time in that division, because I think there's no greater leader out there than that man. And when everything was said and done, as we were getting ready to retrograde, back to Kuwait to load ships and come home, several months later, he was kind of going. And again, is where it gets. But I believe the whole part of the division, maybe not the whole division, but at least part of the division. I know at least the artillery regiment, was in kind of a consolidated location, if you will. We were somewhere outside Baghdad, at the time, and wasn't like we were all right together. We were spread out for security purposes, but he wanted to come and address. I believe it was the regiment. I think it was the 11th Marines, and talk to us as he was kind of doing his battlefield circulation, around the area, to kind of talk about the future plans, the retrograde, and all that good stuff. And so we had a combat formation, if you will, but it wasn't necessarily a formation. It was just, a group of 1,000 plus or however many folks the regiment had at the time, probably many more than that, but he addressed the group. And I'll never forget the one thing that has stuck with me forever and ever and ever is when he got done, he said, remember, when you get back home, nobody owes you anything. And those words just, again, they stuck with me. I've shared them, in my roles in leadership, with Marines that I had, because I think it's true. We all volunteer to raise our right hand and swear that oath. And so we owe the honor, the integrity, that commitment, that comes along with doing that. And at the end of the day, we're owed what we're owed by our contract. But above and beyond that, it's nobody should be coming around um, asking for things, and not that that's where he was really going with that, but it's just, hey, nobody owes you anything, when you get back, and so I just really took that to heart. And different folks probably took different meanings from that. I shared that at my retirement ceremony. It's something that I built my career around, and just stuck with me. So again, it was a pleasure to work for that man. I followed him, followed his career, not followed him personally, but followed his career. And I enjoy reading things that he puts out, because I just think he's a phenomenal leader. And being able to
Wow.
have a quote like that stick with me is awesome. So that's my quote. And then I
That's your
also
quote.
wanted to share with you an object, and I'm going to take it off from around my neck here. Um,
Okay.
and people that see this are probably going to laugh and make fun of me, because they're going to go, "The heck, those are dog tags," But what I want, yes, I do still wear these, even to this day. This may be the thing that I can't let go of. But what I do want to share, make sure I get it in the camera here. It's I don't you probably can't even see it because it's so rusted, but
Right.
it's a little medal of Saint Barbara, and it says "Pray for us" on the back. Saint
Okay.
Barbara is the patron saint of the field artillery,
Oh,
um,
wow.
and,
Okay.
and it's so much so that there's a big celebration among artillerymen, in both Marine Corps and the Army. We share that celebration, but it's massive celebration across artillery units, annually. Every year we celebrate that. But why is that important to me? Again, going back to 2003, young lieutenant, I was working in the operations shop. So I was an assistant operations officer at the time, for that same artillery unit that was deploying. And the night before we left, to get on the planes and fly over to Kuwait, we were all kind of corralled up and quarantined, if you not quarantined, but we had to check out of homes, and those with families had to leave families behind, and come and stay at the unit that night, so we could leave early in the morning. We had cut kind of everything was cut off, from the outside, as we prepared to leave. And so we're sitting there in the office, in the few hours we had, and my boss comes in and hands me this medal, and says, "Hey, the CO was passing these out. Would you like one?" I said, "Absolutely, I'll take that." And so I threw it on my dog tag chain, and as soon as we got over into theater, um, I'm Catholic, and so I attempted to I would go to a mass, that was in a tent somewhere, but the chaplain that happened to be there, the Catholic chaplain, I asked him to bless it for me, and he said, "Absolutely, yeah, I'll do that." And so I had that thing around my neck that entire deployment, and all the rest of my career and the rest of my deployments. thereafter, and these dog tags and that medal have been with me for 20 plus years. And
Wow.
it's I don't take them off. Um, it's one of those things that, if you're superstitious, athletes are superstitious, and
Right.
everybody's got them. But I got to think that somewhere in the divine world, somebody was looking out for me. I feel very lucky and very fortunate, to be where I am today. And so yeah, that medal is just as much a part of me as my family as anything.
Right.
But that's
Sure.
that's hung, that's hung around my neck for 20 plus years now. And so
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
think that fits this theme as much as anything.
That's amazing. What a special treasure. I love that. That is really, really very special. I have to ask you, do you have any advice for, fellow veterans that are struggling with transition?
I do. And when I said earlier, there's a lot of posts that go on in the social media world, and there's a lot of great people, that are out there trying to help, especially in the transition space. And the funny thing is the further along you get, you're not as close to the transition as you once were, and so you become sort of outdated and whatnot. But as I alluded to earlier, I think there's a pretty good formula to it, and it's networking, mentoring, and coaching. And it doesn't mean, I didn't do it perfectly. I think I hit two out of those three. I never really had what I consider, probably a mentor, in the true sense of the word. um, but networking, I caught on late, but the fact you got to get out there and do it, is something.
Right.
I'm extremely, extremely introverted, when it comes to it. So networking
Wow.
never came naturally to me. Well,
No,
in fact, it
I
probably still
wouldn't.
does to a
I
sense.
I
But
wouldn't think of you as introverted.
I
Wow.
am. I've always been that way. But again, I had to teach myself, how to break out of that shell, if you will. Because yeah, you're not going to find success if you're afraid to go out into the world. You just got to do
Right.
it. You got to do things that make yourself uncomfortable. And transition is not a comfortable time. Getting away
Sure.
from the time and space that you've known, whether it's 4 years or 40 years, as folks say, getting once you break away from that, it really, it's an unknown, and it's an unknown for everyone. Everybody has to realize that everybody that makes that transition is making the transition. It's not, there's nobody that it's easy for, necessarily. And those that come out of uniform and, have meaningful employment lined up are very fortunate, and they certainly did the work, while they were the networking, if you will, while they were in to make that happen. But there's a good percentage that don't have that. There's a good percentage like me, that have no idea, up until maybe the very last day, what it is they want to do with the rest of their life. And and again, the coaching aspect of it, I think really allowed me to do some self discovery, which is the whole point of it. It allows you to sort of get an in depth look at who you are, in order to figure out where do you want to go. What is your vision for your life? And again, nobody's going to tell you, what that looks like. And
Sure.
so finding people, finding resources, that can help you sort of look at who you are, instead of them trying to tell you what you should be, or what you should be doing, is maybe a good way to look at it. And again, the mentor piece is super, super important. And the folks that I know that did that correctly certainly have latched on to great careers and are doing awesome things, out there in the professional world, and that's a super important. And across all three of those spheres, if you will, again, tons and tons more resources than anybody can possibly imagine, and people that are out there in each of those lanes, that want to help, and it can be something as small as figuring out where do you want to live. That's a
Right.
major choice, in the grand scheme of things. It should probably align with, what you're going to do post service career. But once you come to those decisions, you can figure out, what veterans councils are there, what or VSO, veteran serving organizations are there, what networking groups, and even if you want to get out of that space, go on to an Eventbrite, and find a local meetup of
Right.
sorts,
Hmm.
and find a business meetup, find anything. I started doing that all the time when I got into I started working for the university, the last few years, just to somewhat get out of the military space and figure out, some other avenues that might help me in the military space. So it is just, it's so huge, and it's such a missed opportunity that we're just not. I don't know that we're taught necessarily. That folks try to
Sure.
do that. Leaders may try to sort of guide you in that, but I don't know necessarily that we all know how to do it while we're in the military, and we need folks that have already gone through it in order to sort of show us the way, if you
Sure.
will, because there's
Yeah.
not, there's many different ways, and so yeah,
Yeah.
if folks are struggling, with the transition, you kind of look at those three avenues. Many free resources as well. The coaching
Right.
program that I did was a,
Sure.
was a free resource, and it was awesome. There's
Yeah.
great professionals out there that want to help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So, so this has been amazing conversation. But before you go, can you tell us where people can find and connect with you, and where can they find out more information on our community salutes? Can Where they can donate, and what if there is a high school student that's interested in getting involved and actually joining? Do you have resources at the website to kind of lead them to a recruiter to help them navigate this space?
So that's actually a great point. I don't know that we've ever thought about it from the reverse, angle like that, because what we do is offer the programs that they can connect to through their recruiters. So the ceremony exists through their recruiters. The reverse is an interesting angle, though, that we're gonna have to take. I might take a look at that. But the best way to find us is through our website, ourcommunitysalutes.org. You can reach me through email, and mine is simply my name, Ryan at ocsusa.org. That is my email. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Ryan Bauman with the PMP. That's how people always sort of got to me. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I'm usually pretty active, on LinkedIn. But our OCS, social media feeds are really blowing up right now. We have a new marketing director that came on, this spring. She's doing phenomenal work through many other social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I think she's out there on all of those, now. So there's a good many ways to find us now within the individual communities. we have we have links. So if you come to our website again, ourcommunitysalutes.org, we've got a communities drop down where you can click on local communities, and that will lay out all of the different areas where we have ceremonies, and
Okay.
that's usually the place where we point, the first place that we point people to. Each of those has an individual website. So like the Jersey one,
Right.
that you attended had its own had its own website. With individual get involved opportunities based on site and location. Now, if a high school senior happens to come to that of their own volition, outside of their recruiter, we absolutely would encourage them. Um, Again, once they're contracted and taken the oath of enlistment, that's when they're eligible to come to our ceremonies. And so again,
Okay.
another reason why we go through the recruiting commands for
Ah,
that. But if
okay.
somebody happens to come to us, of their own volition, we would encourage them. Make sure your recruiters tracking that this is going on, because that
Yeah,
again,
sure.
communication, 1,000 points of contact. I'm not a perfect person, so if I've missed somebody, that could very well happen. I try not to, and I think I was pretty much 100% across the board in contacting folks
Right.
out there in each of our locations, but it doesn't mean that
So is it
that
is
I couldn't miss somebody.
right? I was just going to ask, so is it the recruiter's kind of responsibility in a certain area to go to the high schools and sort of say, "Hey, there's this opportunity. Anybody interested in enlisting?" Is that kind of how that
Yes.
works? Okay.
Yes. So yeah, the recruiters are out there each and every day, in various locations. They're in the high schools, they're at community events, they're doing all of those things. They are probably some of the busiest people that we have in the military, on a day-to-day basis, and God bless them for what they do, because it is a
Right.
tough job, as with any type of recruiting. And so again, that with the requirement being that this is a recognition for high school seniors that are already in the pipeline to enlist. They're just waiting for graduation, and then their ship dates, and whatnot. The recruiters are the ones that they've got those lists of names. They don't necessarily share the data with us, but what they will
Right.
do is they'll take our invitation that we make, for each of those locations, and they have their communication channels: text, email, phone, or whatnot, and
Right.
they'll blast that out, on our behalf, and they're part of our. In many cases, the recruiters are part of our planning committee for those various areas. We bring them in, just a couple of meetings ahead of each of the ceremonies, and their respective locations. We tell them how many folks they have coming, and it's a back and forth there, so that they know who they need to still go engage. We get the awesome turnouts that we have at the ceremonies because of the work that the recruiters are doing, literally,
Right.
with,
Right. Yeah.
without them passing that information along. We would have very little recourse to connect with any of
Sure.
these kids. It would be a much
Yeah.
much more difficult lift out there.
Yeah.
But back to your original, what I didn't touch on with the website real quick is the follow on piece, and that's something that's under development as well right now, called OCS Connect. And so when I said earlier, probably the biggest part of our business is the ceremonies, the recognition piece of what we do. That's why Ken founded this organization many years ago, to recognize those kids, recognize the moms and the dads and the guardians, that are going to be part of that journey, with them. And so the ceremony is what we build our entire calendar around. Now,
Right.
um, we're actually offering some additional services, not services, so resources, if you will. It's called OCS Connect. But there's different modules that folks can go on and sign up for, and it's the questions that maybe moms and dads might have on things that their son or daughter may be doing while in the mill. All those burning questions that we who were in the military don't necessarily share, the just the day-to-day stuff. What goes on, what can I help them with, education benefits, what should they be thinking about in their first year, their second, if they're going to do 4 years, when should they start thinking about, that transition, if you, all of those things that kind of lead
Right.
up to that, to get them to the transition space. And we certainly want all of them to go have very, very fruitful careers in the military, but we also recognize that the majority of enlistees will do 4 years and get out. And so
Yeah.
the idea would be this program is something for them to stay connected to after, once through basic training and beyond, in order to get them to the space where they can then link up with all the different. We're not trying to get into the transition space. That's not our shtick. That there's a lot of other organizations, resources that are doing that. We're trying to help get them there, along with a couple others, that are there supporting the active duty force. And so that's the idea. It's brand new, and it's still under development in many cases, but that'll be sort of the next step,
Right.
in the Art Community Salutes ecosystem, if you will. So yeah, some great things coming down the road. We've got 2025 somewhat planned actually already.
Oh,
And I
wow.
know we're not even we're not to the end of 2024. We still got some exciting things, coming this year. And thank God we have so many supporters, that are out there just wanting to do great things on our behalf, much as you're doing, with this podcast, and just really appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, yeah. It's been great. It's Ken's been on, and now having you on, it's great. You guys are doing great stuff. I was so excited that Cherry and I were able to attend that ceremony. It was very, very inspiring and very moving, definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on, Ryan. It's been an amazing conversation,
Yeah.
and I really love the work you and Ken are doing, and your whole team at OCS USA. I think it's amazing. So thanks for
Well,
taking
thank
the
you,
time.
Tracy. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. And again, I just really enjoyed sitting with you and Jerry at the ceremony, and just glad we connected. And I
Yeah.
love what you're doing on this podcast. I think it is just a phenomenal platform to just share, transition stories. And I love the tactical treasure aspect of it, because everybody has one, and
That's right.
it can look very different, for many people, but we all have them, and to be
Yeah.
able to
True.
share these stories is wonderful. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's been great. Thank you, Ryan. Take care.
Thank you.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures podcast. We've just finished up a very enlightening and amazing conversation with Ryan Bauman, who served 20 years in the Marine Corps as a field artillery officer and is now the Director of Community Engagement for Our Community Salutes USA. Our Community Salutes is a national nonprofit organization whose mission is to help communities recognize, honor, and support high school seniors who plan to enlist in the U.S. Armed Services after graduation, and to provide parents and guardians of enlistees with community support. Our Community Salutes runs entirely on volunteer work and includes community leaders, government officials, educators, businessmen, and veterans who feel strongly about the importance of community support and recognition for the patriotic young adults who will enlist in the military after graduation. In this endeavor, our Community Salutes host recognition ceremonies around the country every year in an effort to be the first to say thank you. To support the cause of saying thank you, go to ourcommunitysalutes.org. There you can donate directly, and you can also sign their virtual thank you cards and help reach their goal of 1 million virtual thank you cards. Again, thanks for joining us. And don't forget, you can find Tactical Treasures podcast on all your favorite streaming
platforms, as well as Vet TV, American Grit, and our dedicated YouTube channel. We are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you missed that, please be sure to join us on Saturdays at 1 p.m. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. We are also proud to share that our JDog Foundation is a Reese Across America sponsorship group. For each $17 Veterans Wreath you sponsor, $5 goes directly back to the JDog Foundation, whose mission is to prevent veteran suicide and heal veterans' mental health and PTSD. You can donate right now at reaseacrossamerica.org/JDog. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again on another podcast real soon. Bye-bye now.